What is your name?
My name is Rebecca Carson, but I go by Becky.
And how did you become deaf?
Well, it was a funny story. Actually, when I was a little girl, I put pencils in my ears and lost my hearing. I'm just kidding. I was actually born deaf.
How did you learn sign language?
I learned sign language when I was attending speech therapy.
So do you have some hearing? Like, can you hear me right now?
Nope, I can't hear anything.
Okay, so then that makes me think, how do you get up in the morning if you can't hear your alarm clock?
I have a device called a bed shaker that I can put underneath my pillow, and also I can set an alarm on my phone to flash lights to help me wake up as well.
Do you ever go to music concerts?
I haven't gone to any large concerts personally, but I know at some local gigs, they have an interpreter in person. And if it's scheduled ahead of time, they can find an interpreter to be there for that specific date you'd like to go.
Are there a lot of famous deaf individuals?
Yes, absolutely. And you're starting to see more and more deaf actors. Marlee Matlin from the movie Children of a Lesser God is one notable actress. Switched at Birth and Coda are two examples of deaf actors in the field. I could go on and on and on.
How do you watch TV shows or movies?
I watch using closed captions. If I happen to go to the movie theater for a new release, you can ask them when you arrive for a device that has the closed captions on it during the movie. And of course, if you're going with a large group of people, it's important to reach out to the movie theater beforehand to make sure that they have enough closed caption devices.
Where did you go to school?
I went to the North Carolina School for the Deaf. That's actually right across the street here from Western Piedmont.
How do you communicate with people that don't know sign language?
Well, we can write back and forth to communicate. We can text. We can use a video phone. There's lots of different options. Of course, we can speak through an interpreter. If they know some sign language, we can definitely find a way.
When or how did your parents find out that you were deaf?
Well, I was born premature and had to stay in the NICU. I actually passed my hearing test, but when my parents noticed that I wasn't picking up language and was nonverbal, they decided to take me to a doctor where they tested my hearing again and did not think I had any illnesses. My mom actually went to a community college to take a sign language class, and I continued speech therapy where I learned sign language there. As this continued, we went to several different audiologists, trying to find a way for me to pick up an effective communication. My parents tried several different resources, and one of our family friends had a contact with some local deaf community members, and they helped me get into the School for the Deaf, and that's where I started, and now I'm here.
Can you read lips?
Yes, sorta. Of course, with masks, that's been challenging. COVID was not very deaf-friendly.
How does it make you feel when people misunderstand what you say?
It's interesting because deaf culture and hearing culture is very different. Deaf culture tends to be very direct, whereas hearing people sometimes can be offended by that and prefer a softer approach. But deaf culture is just very direct. We don't beat around the bush. And I know sometimes hearing people prefer things to be a little bit more private and a little bit more subtle. So sometimes misunderstandings happen. Sometimes it's important if that occurs to not criticize the sign, but we all learn our own way. I'm deaf, this is how I communicate. I've noticed on TikTok, there is one creator who actually has been teaching the wrong signs, and that's really offensive to the deaf community. It's important if you're learning, you need to learn from an actual ASL instructor. I'm not sure if this creator is deaf or hearing. I'm assuming hearing, But it's hard as a hearing person to teach sign language. Really, we should leave that to deaf instructors because they know the language the best, as opposed to hearing people. And so I always tell people, make sure you learn sign language from a deaf person, or if it has to be a hearing person, make sure it's from a coda, a child of a deaf adult who grew up with the language. Because again, when you learn from hearing people who have no deaf family or no background in deafness, it can be really misunderstanding.
How do you know to answer the door?
There's a lot of different ways. My dog is trained when someone rings the doorbell to get my attention, so I know somebody's there. He'll run to the door to let me know. I also have, similar to my bed shaker, the device that shakes to wake me up in the mornings. It will also vibrate when someone is ringing the doorbell. And also a simple text sometimes if a family member lets me know someone's at the door.
How would someone be able to get your attention?
Just wave your hands like this. Flash lights, tap the table, the list goes on and on. You can be creative. Typically, especially in restaurants, when it's noisy, hearing people want to be very subtle about how they get my attention, but I can't hear you, so I need you to be a little bit more direct. It's not rude, it's just how the deaf culture is.
Do you have any pet peeves of things that hearing people say to you or ask you all the time?
Again, that list is endless as well. Typically, when hearing people are trying to get my attention, they'll start talking before I can let them know that I'm deaf, and then their immediate response is, "I'm sorry." Oh, really, that is a pet peeve of mine. I'm not dead, I'm deaf. I don't need your sorries. This is my life, and I go through that a lot. Also, when they automatically ask me if I can read lips, that's another pet peeve, because reading lips isn't 100% dependable, especially if you have a beard or other facial hair, or if you're a fast talker. It can be frustrating. And then they'll ask also, how did you learn sign? Or sometimes they'll just ask you some random questions like, can you drive? And I'm like, my eyes are fine. You don't need ears to drive. So those are a few of my pet peeves.
Are you currently in school or do you have a job?
I'm actually doing both. I'm a full-time student here at Western Piedmont Community College, and I also work at a department store.
What is your favorite thing about being deaf?
Oh, of course, I love my sleep. Often you hear hearing people complain about how the storm woke them up, but that's never happened to me. I'm curled up and I'm sleeping very well.
How do you listen to music?
I use speakers that I can take with me. So portable speakers is one way, and I also use headphones. Of course, with the headphones, I don't turn them on at full blast, but enough to where I can feel the vibration and the beat through them. I also read the lyrics to the song to help me give a better understanding. And I also enjoy interpreting songs and signing ASL to the lyrics.